Thank you for visiting the Threat Detective Podcast, the only podcast that gets its villains out of Arkham Asylum. I am your host and GM, Barefoot Tour Guide.
I'm Smuggler's Paradise, Tony.
And I'm Josh. I played Carson.
And I'm just Rob.
Hi, just Rob. Tonight is a special night. We got a nice little reunion of groups because it just seemed that everything was building up to, holy shit, so much has changed since we last all met together. So it's trying. Also, there are some issues that are a little bit that might shake your minds for being a Star Wars fan. I want to see how you guys are coping with that kind of stuff. Are you up for it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Cool. Before we do that, we're going to remind you guys that in our live play tonight is the exciting bit where you can go to Bucho's throne room. You confront Nemo Dusk, the giant ATRTs with chainsaws that were built specifically to kill Nemo, and also Patches sitting on the throne. You guys have any memories of that session?
I do. I remember, I think that was one of our important rules discussions with Force Light. I think I remember that because I was going to use it and it was going to hurt like Rama or something because he had a dark side score. And we had some discussion about that because the range and everything. But I also remember Patches sitting on his throne all Joker-like in that big, long kind of corridory room thing.
Yeah, the map was a replica of the Emperor's throne room on the second Death Star, which I thought was a really cool map, and I just had to use it somehow. I also wanted to limit you guys as far as terrain and movement, being on a narrow bridge deal. Rob, you're saying?
I just remember that was around the time in the game when Tull was actually getting useful, and I walked right up to Patches and just started shooting or beating the crap out of him. I recall that vividly.
I remember hearing a part, because I was editing it just yesterday, where there's all this Destiny points going back and forth, and like 90 points of damage here, 50 points of damage here, and Rob just goes, "Do I get Destiny points too?"
Oh, man. Yeah, he's struggling in those early days.
Well, when you're going in, get with a party of level 14 people and you're coming in at level 6, yeah, it's a big challenge.
Indeed, indeed.
I think that was one of the. Was that one of the split group sessions?
It was not. It was a little bit right before we split the group.
Okay.
This was on your quest to rescue Flash.
At least. And I remember Patches just being insane,
Yes, he was. It was fun. It was the CL18 Joker build that I got off the forums, and I was at that time going, well, let's just see if the group can defeat the Joker.
I think we did all right.
Yes, you did.
We handle problems. That's what we do.
And now let's go over to the round table. And welcome to our round table. It has been a long, long time since we've actually done a live one with all of you guys, with Tony and Josh and Rob. It's been 2 years at least?
Is it only 2?
Year and a half to 2, yeah.
Yeah,
I
okay.
think so.
It has been a hell of a long time. I remember just before we were getting wrapped up there is when Lucas sold Star Wars. I remember that was one of our last discussions, I think, was, oh my god, the Disney bought Star Wars. What's that going to mean? What is this? And there's so much speculation. Are they going to make new movies? And what's happening? And now look where we are.
Now we're discussing about what's happening with that.
Yeah.
And the main thing that I saw that made me really trigger this, because I wanted to hear your guys' perspective, is in one of the comics that just came out, that's an official comic, which means it is indeed canon. In between Episode 4 and Episode 5, Han and Leia encounter a spaceship. A lady comes out and says, "He just lied. That's the only thing he's good at. I should know. The name's Sana Solo. I'm his wife. Now who in the hell might you be, lady?" To which Leia is not happy, and Han just puts his hands in his head and goes, "Oh no." How do you feel about Han Solo being married during the movies?
Not good. We just touched upon this just before we started because I had not known about this comic book, and I had to say to myself and to Garrett, I said, Garrett, I have to hold my nerd rage in a little bit here, because I think that hurts Han Solo as a character. I mean, again, like I was saying earlier, this is kind of the first face check I've had against the throwing out the old EU versus the new canon, whatever. And it's a little difficult because I love the Han Solo trilogy books. They're fantastic. I love them. Read them so many times as a kid. But now, so Han Solo is either an adulterer or his wife dies, and then we have to, Leia's like, oh, poor Han Solo, who's sad, and I have to fix him because he's, without a woman, or, or he gets a space divorce. I mean, that's.
So think about that. He would have to go to the Imperial court system to get this.
Right? I mean, Han Solo does not get a space divorce. If they go, it's canon, Han Solo has a space divorce, he has to pay alimony. That's why he needed all the money. Like, I mean, that is. Me and Star Wars are gonna have to have a talk if that happens. So yeah.
Maybe he got maybe he got a Vegas wedding. Like he was with this broad and they did stuff and he woke up and he's like, well, see you later, and unbeknownst to him there's the nuptials waiting on legal paper he never happened to check because he had a really bad hangover.
What happens at Cloud City stays at Cloud City.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely better, but it's still a little, oh man. Maybe it's just like some crazy stalker lady.
She seemed to know, and Han seemed to recognize her for what she was from the drawing I saw.
Oh. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess I kind of gotta hit the reset button in my head a little bit to carry on these alternate universes now, or keep my EU straight. But it's interesting. I mean, it's a rough sell for me, I think, but. I guess if it's like, oh man, Space Elvis married us in a space through chapel in Cloud City, then maybe I guess I could get behind that wacky rom-com adventure.
So, how are you getting behind it, Rob? Is this shaking your idea of the Star Wars universe to its core, or does it work for you?
Tony's not gonna like this answer. Is I don't care a good answer? I don't know. I don't know that Han Solo being. I gotta know the context. Like her just walking out and being like, "We're married" is fine, and it's a good drop to a thing. But I don't know. I need a little context, I guess.
I mean, I don't care is a fine answer. I mean, if you don't, you don't. But I guess I'm putting the train ahead of the railroad tracks a little bit. I guess by just implying things or taking things a little bit further. But in my head, I'm just like, what is it if Han Solo actually got married because we do know Han Solo's a good guy, so there's a chance that he was like, I married that girl because I had the best intentions, and then it fell through or whatever, and then what happened. I don't know if that's the Han Solo I want to see. So you're absolutely right. Like the context is definitely important, but I don't know. It's different, that's for sure.
Josh, how do you feel about it?
I kind of find it hard to believe from someone who probably doesn't have an actual Starship registration. That's not on a cantina napkin or something, I don't know. I'm kind of along the lines with Rob in a way. I mean, I guess it kind of depends on where they go with it. I don't foresee Han Solo sitting down and having the white picket fence on some asteroid somewhere, with the Millennium Falcon parked outside. But I guess it's a little early to tell for me.
He's got to trade it in for the minivan.
Yeah, right.
If you go back to the original cuts, in one of the rough cuts of Star Wars, when Luke and 3PO and Ben enter the cantina, there's a shot of a lady sitting on Han's lap, and he kind of shoos her off.
Oh, well, I mean that's a cantina wench. I mean, right? If we're going with like swashbuckly, serial adventures, that's the guy with the ladies. Hey, honey, I'll have one of those drinks and come over here and sit with me for a while. I mean, that's Han as a player. That's not Han as a married man. No married man sits with his wife on his lap in a cantina in the backwaters of Tatooine.
So you and Lauren haven't been going to biker bars and having her sit on your lap in the height of Scum and Villainies and stuff?
Not quite. I can barely get her to look at me in my own home.
And the next thing on our list, Star Wars Rebels. Has anybody been watching this? I'm behind, but really enjoying what I'm seeing.
I saw like the kickoff little movie they did, but unfortunately I only have like Netflix and stuff, so I haven't been able to like watch it as it goes, and I'm just bad with catching up on shows just with work and all that stuff. But I am so ready to like buy that when it comes out on DVD and just plow through it, because the intro movie thing was awesome. I don't think that there's been like an hour and a half of Star Wars that has put me in that original trilogy feel like that did. In a long time.
Yeah, one thing that we always, Mary and I did, we would Sunday mornings with our coffee, and then as that ended, it makes it feel.
Whoa.
And I so am happy with that. Josh, have you seen it?
Yeah, I saw the kickoff movie thing. I definitely had a hell of a lot of fun watching through that. It was I don't know, it really got me in the mood for some Star Wars again, that's for sure. As for keeping up with it, I mean, I don't have like cable or anything, so it's kind of tough for me to. And I've got like a stack of DVDs that I bought that I still haven't watched through for other shows, so I'm pretty terrible at keeping up on all that stuff.
And Rob?
I watched the opening thing with Tony and Josh, but I did one day at work go into the break room, and an episode was on, and I think it's one of the Moffs. It might even be Tarkin. I'm not sure. It's talking to these like lesser Imperial officers and basically giving them the whole like, "You guys have failed me for the last time." And then that means that the Inquisitor brings his double-bladed lightsaber and like decapitates these dudes, and you don't like see it, but like totally happens. And I was like, "This is incredible! I need to watch all of these."
That's so good.
And also in the first season, one of the plot lines they had Lando show up, where he's setting up his mining outfit and he's running cons with Scum and Villainy and is using the Rebel cast as pawns in his game to overcome and cheat out this guy, which kind of gives you a little bit more deeper appreciation of Lando as the con artist.
Yeah, I'm always up for more Lando. Anyone who can pull off a cape like that deserves some more screen time.
Yes, and coming up in the second season, it looks like Ahsoka is going to return.
Yeah, now that's a storyline that I want. I mean, being a fan of the Clone Wars animated series, that is something that I am very interested in, because I mean, obviously we see Order 66 and Episode 3 and everything, but there are a lot of characters that you get introduced to in the Clone Wars that, unfortunately, or maybe it's a good thing that they leave a little bit of those question marks, because sometimes it's fun to kind of fill in the blanks yourself. But I felt like it was this plot point that they missed out on with like when Order 66 happens. What is Anakin? That's his apprentice, and they have that deep relationship of master and apprentice. And what happens? Who gets the best of that, or what? I direly wanted to see that.
And it looks like her master is going to also be coming to the show as Vader becomes involved.
That'll
So we
be
might
fun.
get to see an Ahsoka versus Vader duel.
That would be great.
So when they first did the announced trailer for the second season, and they had the Ahsoka, like, oh, Ahsoka's gonna be in it. I just got like super man-child happy, and I was just like, man, I cannot wait. They might not even do it in the show, but like I just want Vader and her to have this epic duel of like
Yes.
amazingness, and I just want it so badly. I don't know if I'm gonna get it, but
Yeah. Oh, I think we will. Which leads us to Uprising. This is the first video game that is officially canon now that takes place after Return of the Jedi. And it looks like the military might is kind of like saying, yeah, if you think that the Death Star got destroyed and the Emperor got killed, come see me and my Star Destroyer, and we'll see if you live after that. So it's one of the. It's real interesting to me. I mean, I think I'm thinking, I like colonial America a lot in a lot of the stuff I'm writing. And how would it be, if we heard King George had died on a superboat that was destroyed by terrorists near Australia? How would we actually know if that was real or true or not, especially if a bunch of British guys with muskets and big boats were telling us that that wasn't true? How do you guys feel about that?
It's really interesting because one of my favorite eras is the New Republic era. I read so many of those books that took place after Return of the Jedi, all that stuff. I really wish that we would have gotten a New Republic source book in Saga Edition, because I think there's just a wealth of information that is just fun. Because in so many of those books, it's the Emperor is, or the Empire, I should say, is scattered a little bit, but still like under some form of central leadership, and the rebels are still fighting. Like they control nothing, and that's such a big plot point of those early post Return of the Jedi books, is to get them to fight and take over Coruscant and all that stuff. And from the Imperial perspective, it's about them, trying to maintain control, because I mean, it would, it's still a huge, military might. There's no denying it. Just because you take off the leader doesn't mean there's not, a million TIE fighters out there. So it's I think it's a fantastic.
There's a power vacuum, a vast power vacuum of people, of them squabbling among each other, trying to get control to be the next leader. Which I thought was the most fun part of it.
Yeah, it's a great era.
Josh, how do you feel about it?
I think it's going to be a pretty cool era to run in. I mean, you got, like you were saying, you got that power vacuum that, who might try to fill that? Is it going to be someone twice as bad that might step in? You might have like potentially sections of the Empire that are just like, we want to go, we're just gonna take over this section of space and say screw the rest of it because we can, like if you got some like a rogue element or something like that, I think it just opens up a lot of cool doors for more books or comics or what have you,
Exactly. Yeah, and I'm trying to think of our world historical perspective. I mean, it's one thing the British Empire dissolving, but if King London had been blown up with Parliament and everything, how the Empire scattered and the leaders that were controlling all the different colonies would have been been in a whole different way of how it all went down.
Yeah.
Rob, what are your thoughts on this game?
I don't know a lot about it, but it's very interesting. I think that this whole new era that we're going into with the movies and post Return of the Jedi is going to give a lot of people what they what some people said that they missed in the prequels. A lot of people said that the prequels didn't feel like Star Wars to them because it wasn't run down yet. It wasn't a galaxy that had gone through a horrible war and years of rule under a tyrant. And I think you get this, after the Emperor dies kind of era where maybe there's warlords that split apart the Empire and you have these various zones controlled by various people, or even if not, it's definitely more of that, lawlessness in the galaxy and conflict around every corner, and you don't know who works for who or who you can trust, and criminals have more power, and I think that just the whole kind of timeline era is going to make probably a lot of people happy, even if they have other gripes about the movie or the new era.
It'd be interesting if it was like an even split in power between the Empire, the Hutts, and the Rebels.
Well, hopefully, it'll give rise to a canon version of a lot of people's favorite EU character, Grand Admiral Thrawn. I mean, he was in those first, EU books that kind of came out in the 90s there, and so many people love him. And to see that character brought into, either movies or games or, something a bit more mainstream than he might have been before, I think would do a lot for a lot of people.
What I've heard from Kathleen Kennedy and Pablo Hidalgo is they're taking everything and trashing it in the canon, but they're keeping the ideas of a strong warlord leader who's coming in. That concept will remain, but the name and the techniques will not. Han and Leia may have kids, but it's not going to keep the exact name Jason, Jaina, Anakin in there.
It's rough because for the people who just go see the movies and everything, and Josh, I'm going to throw you under the bus here because you've seen the movies, and I know that's all about it. So
pretty much.
Josh, as far as Star Wars goes, he's going to go into Episode 7 and be like, man, it's super cool that Han and Leia have 5 Wookiee children that are named Bob, Jim, Schmitty, and whatever. But to a lot of Star Wars fans who have lived with the EU for 20 something years now, it's difficult to to erase that from your mind and go, okay, well this is that sort of thing. This is a new thing. It's kind of like when Marvel or DC decides they want to reset their universe, and something happens, and you have to go, okay, well that Spider-Man did this thing before, but then you have to go, okay, well that's not true because that was that Spider-Man, and this is the Spider-Man. It's just sometimes I can see where it would be hard to wrap your head around.
Yeah.
It kind of makes me think of I'm going to use Game of Thrones because it's the one right in my head where this new season has a lot of changes from the books, and a lot of people are sort of in that weird zone of like, what's happening with the show, and I don't quite know what's going on. And I think Star Wars, it's going to be a lot of feel like that, where like a television show comes out based on a book series or a movie or whatever it may be, and it's different, and people are just going to immediately react to like, well, it's different, so it's bad, because that's what people do sometimes. And, that's not necessarily true, but to a certain extent, it can feel like a little bit of a middle finger to people. I guess I didn't really think so when we first were hearing about it, but I don't know. You saying it right there, I was like, that's kind of like a big screw you to the fans in some ways, but I don't know. I don't know.
I guess it kind of comes down to that, is it because they're like, well, there's so much here that we won't, and it's great, but we want to really just like focus on something and hone it into something greater, or did they just want to be like, there's too much there, we don't want to work with it, we just want to get lazy and start over, or I guess it kind of depends on what mindset.
I thought it was what you said there of the latter, but I think it's also more of we don't want our creativity to be directed.
Right. I mean, definitely, I agree with that. I mean, when you listen to some those authors who have written for like Star Wars or anything, and they'll tell you that sometimes it's hard to come up with a story or that matches everything that you need to get through for Lucas approval to make sure it matches with something that happened in a book that was written 15 years ago or whatever. So I can definitely understand that. I think that there are certain things that they probably could have kept easily that would have meshed well with both things. Like Han and Leia in Episode 7 should probably have 3 children, Jason, Jaina, and Anakin, right? I mean, that's like an easy thing that kind of, works well with the fans. It works well for new people. It makes a lot of sense. I mean, Grand
But then
Admiral...
isn't there that sense that this is what Jason, Jaina, and Anakin are like? If you don't have one of those names, then you don't have that expectation.
I suppose. But I guess you could also say that, you could boil them down to some very basic character traits and then still have a lot of room to play with that. I mean, I can tell you that, Luke Skywalker is a good guy. He wants more. He wants adventure. But and to do that, he sometimes makes poor choices. And we all know who Luke Skywalker is in the movies that we've seen. But if you were to reset that and do it again, you could use that same line of information about who that character is, and make it more brash. Like, I'm gonna go out and do this because I have to, and it's gonna happen. And that can completely change who that character is, while still keeping the core of those character traits. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know if there's a right answer or a wrong answer with this. There's so much stuff.
And that brings us to a little trailer that came out for Episode 7 this summer. Anybody see that? Anybody have any like or dislike of that little trailer?
There's an Episode 7 coming?
There's an Episode 7.
Oh my God, I have to go.
You heard it. This podcast just broke the news for you.
Wait a minute. Lucas doesn't own Star Wars? What?
Yeah, no, we all saw the trailer. So the first one, the teaser one, was great. I mean, like, everyone was all like, "Her the lightsaber" and whatever. I was like, "Yes, whatever. You can go kiss my ass because that's awesome." But like they that Star Wars music at the end when the Falcon comes out, and I go, that's the feels and stuff. Everyone knows what I'm talking about. And then the second one was, I mean, just it was fantastic. It is everything you want in Star Wars. And yeah, I don't even.
It made me feel like I was 12 years old again in like the best possible way.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Great summation.
So Tony, what is your interpretation of the line, even if it makes no sense with the movie, of what Han Solo said?
I think that for whatever reason, they lost the Falcon, and they are in the Falcon for the first time after however many years. That's what I think. God, I hate to be one of those goddamn nerds, but like, if you look at the background, you can see like it looks like the inside of the Falcon. And why else would they be like, "We're home" if you're not like back after so long? I mean, Han Solo either is in that ship every day of his life, or he somehow lost it and something happened, and he's back with to grab it, and he's, "Oh, Garrett, you don't even know Star Wars." Rob is so right. Like, I just thinking about that trailer and like that good feels, it just makes me like feel like I want to like put a cardboard box, like I'm gonna think, and like fly around and like be the Millennium Falcon and stuff. Right? It's great.
And there's also... Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I kind of want to watch the trailer again right now, thinking about it.
Right.
Josh, did you have that same kind of feeling?
I might not be as steeped in the Star Wars universe, but man, that trailer just it really, I was like, is it coming out tomorrow? Because I need to go see it. Like, I don't know. It was just freaking great.
It's everything that you want in Star Wars, and it's everything you want in a movie, right? Like, when you go to a movie, you want to be just like wowed, and you want to just like shovel popcorn in your mouth, just like staring at the screen and like wide-eyed, amazement. And it's, everything that you remember about like Indiana Jones and Jaws and Star Wars and everything about when you were a kid, and just being in a different place at the movie theater is, I think, what that trailer was. My only regret is that they did not show it before Age of Ultron, because I wanted to see that son of a bitch in a movie theater.
They did show it.
Surprised they didn't.
I saw it before Age of Ultron in 3D.
Really? See, we went just in a regular 2D showing, and they did not have it.
We need to start spending the big bucks on movie tickets, man.
Garrett's got the hookup, I guess.
I had a gift certificate from Christmas that I hadn't used, so I was waiting for a good movie.
Yeah.
But one other thing, who do you think Luke was giving the lightsaber to?
You mean where like the little kid put the lightsaber in a hand?
It looked like Luke's mechanical hand handing a lightsaber to somebody.
Oh, cool. Because I remember in the trailer, there's like mechanical hand on R2, and then I think the next one is like,
Um,
I think it's supposed to be Leia like getting a lightsaber from some little person. But
okay.
I was listening to all these things where people are like, who could it be with R2? I'm like, it's Luke. Like he has a robot hand. We all saw it. You know, and like who could he be talking about? And I'm like, first of all, that whole voiceover is a direct quote from Return of the Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that, and it just makes sense where he's like, I have it, and it's mechanical hand on R2, and it's like, okay, well that's Luke. It's like my sister has it, and she's getting like the lightsaber, so that's Leia and stuff, and so that's what I think.
That's my hope. I for the longest time I've wanted to see Leia with a lightsaber.
Yeah, well, that's I hope that's one of the things they keep from the EU.
Yeah.
I'm
Rob,
waiting
what do
for
you
them
think?
I'm waiting for them to hand it over to Jar Jar Binks or something. That would raise some hackles, I think.
I'm actually looking at a still clip on Google Images because the internet, we live in the future. And yeah, it looks like to me it looks like Leia's getting the lightsaber handed to her. Whether it's by like Luke sitting down or what it is, I kind of think it's Leia. Though maybe it's that cool chick in the trailers too. I don't know. They
Could be.
do that a lot where they fool us.
It's true.
And I just saw this the first time. I didn't see this until today. Carrie Fisher's daughter is in the movie,
Oh, that's interesting.
but she denies that she is playing Leia's daughter.
Well, she doesn't have to. That's fine.
No.
I don't care about that. But that's cool. I'm excited for Andy Serkis. That man is amazing in everything, and
Yes.
I'm excited to see what he brings to Star Wars.
And the other movie trailer that a few people who went to Celebration got to see. Have you guys seen any of the clips of this online or read about Rogue One's trailer?
I did not see the trailer, but I know the premise of the movie and all that stuff.
I'll just give you the quote from Gareth Edwards on it. This is a real piece that we're really in. The thing that interests me about it is Star Wars was basically very black and white. Our movie is gray.
That intrigues me because I think that Star Wars is supposed to be black and white. You watch Star Wars and you know who the good guys are and you know who the bad guys are. The grayest character is Han Solo, and he's a good guy. So I totally get what they want to do and everything, and that's fine. And I think that the spin-off in between movies are probably the place to do that. I think that if you have like an episode 7, an episode with Roman numerals after it, then it should be Star Wars good guys, bad guys, however you want to slice it. But the idea of them showing the Death Star plans getting stolen and everything sounds interesting. In the Han Solo trilogy and stuff, there's a whole bit about them trying to get that. So I'm still trying to wrap my head around the new stuff, but I think it sounds interesting. I love X-wings.
It could be this. It could be the story about Biggs and Porkins, for all we know.
I'd watch that.
Porkins reporting in, sir.
Maybe he saw so much horrible stuff that he had to eat himself to an early grave.
When I heard this movie was being done and heard about the trailers, that's why I rushed out and wrote the Rogue One module that I've been running, because I was like, this is the last chance I can tell this story without being hindered in my imagination by official canon on this.
See, that's very. I'm going to interrupt you real quick because you just said exactly what we were talking about with like writing a new movie and throwing away the EU, because you were just like, I want to do a thing about getting the Death Star plans, but this is a story that they've already told. I can't tell what I want to tell. So there we got it. We're there.
Mm-hmm.
But continue. I'm sorry.
No, that's pretty much it. Josh, do you have any thoughts about Rogue One with Felicity Jones from the Theory of Everything is starring in it?
The starship factor in Star Wars is like one of my big draw. I like the frickin' crazy space dogfights, so
Yes.
I'm excited for it. I don't know. There's just something amazing about frickin' I don't know, giant space explosions and potentially not Michael Bay
Yeah.
explosions. Uh, yeah, I mean, I don't know too much about it yet, but
It seems to me it's going to have a
pretty great.
feel of like a mix of like a Saving Private Ryan meets Mission Impossible meets James Bond type of thing to it, which just fascinates me of that kind of telling in Star Wars.
All those movies are good.
Yeah, I mean, you can do so much with the Star Wars universe. Like, I mean, they're really sitting on a gold mine. You know,
You
with
could do you could do Tarantino and the Robert Rodriguez movies, like you hear in this episode.
I mean, they could do Pulp Fiction if they felt like throwing together some crazy heist or whatever.
There's a Clone Wars episode where they do a shout out to what is it, the Seven Samurai or whatever, that old samurai flick, and then like Magnificent Seven is the cowboy version of it, where it's I think it's Obi-Wan, Anakin, and a whole bunch of bounty hunters, and they're like or mercenaries, and they're defending these people from all these bandits and stuff. And it's basically that old samurai movie, but done in Star Wars. And I remember watching it, and I was like, oh man, this is Samurai 7 or Seven Samurai or whatever it is. Like, this is amazing, and I was super into it. And you can do all kinds of stuff in Star Wars. You just gotta tweak it a certain way.
Especially with samurai, I mean, they already got the swords going. Just throw some Jedi in there, and you got yourself a movie.
And the last thing I have for you is Battlefront is the new Battlefront reboot. How excited are you guys for this? I love the original Battlefronts.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I sunk a lot of time into the old ones, and the trailer for the new ones look great. I mean, I guess we'll find out. But I mean, if it's even a shadow of what the old ones were, we're in for a good game. I mean, yes.
And Josh, have you played Battlefront?
Yeah, I played it a couple times. I was always a big fan of the Battlefield, just the regular Battlefield series. So for me, Battlefront was like a no-brainer. I mean, especially now that I have a computer that can actually kind of run that stuff. Like, I'm pretty excited for a chance to blow up some frickin' AT-ATs and stuff like that. So it should definitely be a fun time. I mean, I guess we'll see how it all pans out, but.
Cool. And Rob?
I guess the thought of possibly in the future being able to be a stormtrooper and shoot these two idiots sounds pretty funny.
Jokes will be had.
Will you shoot Tommy?
I think Tommy will be too busy in the porta potty to even know that there's a fight going on.
Oh man, these things are soundproof. It's great.
And that's a character who's coming up in maybe a year. So depending on how it goes. I guess this really are kind of going into here is with all this news, with all these changes to this galaxy that we've known all our lives. How is this going to affect our gaming? Does this have to affect it? Is it already affecting us in some ways if you're running some Star Wars stuff or playing Star Wars stuff? How's this the effect of all this? What's the fallout on you guys?
Well, I think that there's going to come a time, probably once these spin-offs start coming, or depending on just how much information they give us in Episode 7, where you're going to have to sit down and tell before you start a game and say, okay, guys, we're playing in this version of Star Wars. We're playing the version of Star Wars where, this is how the Death Star plans got happened. This is, what happened post, the Battle of Yavin, and this is the New Republic, and it's this way, or we're playing in the movie version, or just make up your. I mean, I guess that's kind of the beauty of Star Wars, but I do think that you'll have to come to that point where it's you have to decide which universe you want to play in.
Yeah, we're gonna have to number them and file them all away.
Yeah.
Has it affected you at all in your storytelling or thinking about Star Wars, Tony?
Not yet, because frankly, nothing's really happened yet. I think once Episode 7 comes out, it's going to be a time to kind of figure out where you kind of stand on some things, if you're okay with where it's going to go or not. I remember when the prequels came out, there was already plenty of EU out at that point, and I remember having read a lot of stuff and thinking that I know Star Wars, I know what happened, and the prequels happened, and I was like, oh, it's different. And I came to a point in my head where I kind of rationalized how I could keep the EU with the prequels, where I was like, well, there's this 20 years in between, and there's like all this propaganda, so yeah, like this is absolutely how people have told this story about how bad the Empire is, or whatever. But in the prequels, we see that that's not really true, and that's just you anything, the history is written by the winners, and or things get skewed over time. I mean, there's a reason why Han Solo's like hokey religions and stuff about the Jedi. It was 20 years ago, and they were, the guardians of peace and everything. But it's because there's so much propaganda, and everyone was like, we can't talk about Jedis. So I kind of rationalized it that way. I think this one's going to be a little difficult to do that with, but I think it'll be fine.
All right, Josh, how about you? Has this affected your appreciation of Star Wars, your understanding of it? If you're doing any gaming of Star Wars, your understanding of it?
I don't think on my end it really affects me too much, at least at the moment. I mean, like, I don't know, the way I see it, especially with gaming, I kind of see it as, I mean, unless you're doing like a campaign that, where you're, swinging the frickin', where you're completely changing the universe, like, with your characters, you could do small scale stuff and not even have anything come up, where you're just doing some smugglers trying to get stuff onto a planet or something, where like a couple session campaign or something.
Like the first season of Rebels.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess it really depends on exactly how you're trying to do, what you're trying to do with your storytelling, or, and even then, I mean, look at how many different other universes, like other shows and things like that. You got alternate universes, where things happen differently, even in different seasons of stuff from time to time, So I don't know. I guess we'll see when we get there. When I see the movie or something, that might be like, oh well, that changes how that happened for me or something. But
right.
So far, I guess doesn't really affect me too much.
Okay. And Rob?
I don't know. I sort of roll with the punches with things, so I'm excited to see what Episode 7 is going to bring up. I'm not quite as entrenched in the EU as a lot of people are. I mean, I've read a few books that Tony's lent me, but I'm not really super into it. So that kind of gives me the advantage to go in and not really be bogged down by a lot of stuff, where I can just enjoy it for what it is, because I don't really know it as anything else. That said, I do think that Episode 7 is probably going to be a huge shitstorm from fans. I mean, I don't know if it'll be as bad as the prequels, but everyone is going to make some sort of noise about it. I mean, I think I'm going to enjoy it, and I think that, tons of people are going to make super cool splats and extra add-ons for Saga and the Fantasy Flight RPGs, and it's going to be super cool. But, yeah, it's going to be a rough period on the internet, I think, after it comes out.
Very true. And speaking of the gaming, I know you guys, Rob and Tony, we're big into the X-Wing, and I heard you guys have tried out Armada. How are you enjoying the Fantasy Flight Star Wars gaming?
Yeah, well, Josh and I tried Armada only once so far, and at the time it was only the core set. I only had the one core set, so it was kind of a learn to play game, a lower point value than a standard one. But I thought it was a lot of fun. It's a lot different than X-Wing. X-Wing is very, every millimeter of movement matters and lining up and everything. But Armada's a bit different, where you can be a little bit looser with it, and I think it captures that big space battle quite a bit. It's X-Wing's more of a game where it's like, you either load up one ship or you have like a whole swarm of little ships. This one is kind of, like, I have my flagship and I have all these upgrades from my crew on it, plus I have my fighters that surround it, and it was a lot of fun. I'm really looking to play it again. I finally built like some squads now that the first wave is out and everything, and I got that, but it was a good time.
Have you guys been going to the different game stores that have done X-Wing tournaments and things? Have you been involved with
No.
those?
I wouldn't mind it. I have all the X-Wing stuff, except for like the big Corellian Corvette because it's humongous. But I've never played in any tournaments. Every once in a while we'll throw it down just to have some fun and everything. I would not object to going though, and then trying it out at some point because I think it'd just be fun to be in that that scene for a little bit.
Yeah, we're all gonna have to go some time together,
Yeah. I will say we haven't finished our campaign yet, but Imperial Assault, the board game, that I was having a lot of fun with too. It's interesting. It had a couple learning curves we had to get over and everything, but it's cool because it's if you ever played like Mansions in Madness or Descent or anything like that, it's kind of that like halfway towards a role-playing game board game. So like Josh and Rob had their characters, and they were joking around and role-playing with each other as we went on missions and everything, and I'm playing the Imperials trying to stop them, and it's cool because the game plays out in a campaign, and depending on if you win or lose each mission, it changes the next mission that you go on. So it tells a story that can change each time you play it, so it's fun.
Kind of like Lord of the Hives, huh?
A little bit.
Did you guys ever have a game of Lord of the Hives at any of your tables where anybody went through it the same way?
Never.
Because I was thinking about this, and I was putting the Deadlands version together, and it was like, this could go so many weird ways.
Rob, have you ever had anything like the same like that?
I don't know if that's even possible.
Yeah, I mean, everyone brings something new to the table. That's part of, I think, what made it so much fun was to just.
God, remember when that kid was playing Akbar and Luke or whoever was crashed, and it was like they were in water under their X-wing, and he's like, "I'm Akbar, I can swim. I'm gonna use swim."
I do remember that.
Yeah, at the beginning he was like.
Yeah, because
he's like, this is the most useless skill. Like, I'm never gonna use it. And then, like halfway through, he's like, "Holy shit!"
And that did happen because he was like, "Swim! I'm gonna swim. We're in fighters and everything." And I was like, "Well, he's in Mon Calamari and everything." And I think it was the first year that you introduced like that crashed starship with the big AT-ATs table and everything. And just by happenstance, there's a pond or something on that map that you were using, and the fighter that had crashed down was right on the water, like halfway in it and everything. So like he lands and everything, and he just gives me this look, like this slow turn and everything. He's like, "Is that water?" And I was like, "It sure is, buddy." And he's like, "Can I swim in it?" And he's like, "I'm a Mon Calamari." I was like, "You better dive your ass straight in that pond and rescue that person." So, yeah, it was great. And every game has something like that.
And right there, folks. I've been talking on Threads from Gallifrey a lot about running games in public and for cons. And what Tony just did there and described there is how every amazing GM should be when they're running a game in public or at a convention. That will keep them coming back for more.
Yeah, I mean, I've unfortunately, Rob can also attest to this, played in the game where you go, "Is that water? Can I swim in it?" And the guy will turn you and go, "Well, no, you can't because that's not. It's actually
cursed.
Not water. It's whatever, and you definitely can't go in it. It's just not for you."
Someday we'll chronicle that like 4 hours of hell. I refer to that game as the worst 4 hours of my life, and I've had the stomach flu several times before.
It's funny because like it was so bad, but at this point, it's a story I've told so many times that it's becoming, I mean, not good, but entertaining at least. But
There was a part where I almost went to the bathroom and texted Tony to grab my stuff and leave so that we could leave the game.
thankfully he didn't. But I mean, everyone has had, I think, that GM at some point, and you do that. Can I swim in it? And they go, well, no, you can't because of whatever reason that I say that you can't. And you just instantly just like, well, why should I bother having ideas now? Because I'm just not going to be able to do anything. If someone goes, I want to swim in it, you go, yeah, totally, that's super cool. And if you're like, man, that swimming under that pond is just going to take them right to the final boss, so be it. Who cares? They'll sure so remember it.
If your players are turning out like that video of that dog getting dragged through the park or whatever because it just doesn't want to go for a walk, I think I think you're doing something wrong if you're gaming, and that's what your players are essentially doing.
I remember there were those two kids that were at the table with us, Rob, and they were just like, "This is like the first time we've ever gamed," and we were, halfway through, just like, "Oh my God, this is gonna hurt these kids so much," because there's like, "I want to do this. I think it'd be cool if like I did this," and the guy's like, "Well, you can't do that because of this," and we were just like, what is this guy doing?
It was kind of like, it's like, oh man, these kids could be at a super cool after school program, learning and making better of themselves, but instead they're getting meth out of some creepy dude's van.
Oh my God,
that was about it. We got to tell that story sometime.
Sometime we'll chronicle it.
Yeah.
So let's wrap up here. Last thoughts on the Star Wars Galaxy over the last 2 years and its relationship to you guys.
I don't think you can say that you're not excited for Star Wars. I don't care who you are. Even, the person that is going to tell you I will never see the new Star Wars because it is going to be the worst thing ever because there's no way that they can live up to what is a liar because they're going to be first in line. Everyone's going to see it, and it's Star Wars, man. I don't care who you are. It's Star Wars, and you will be there. Yeah.
Josh? Go ahead, Rob.
Oh no, I'm so very excited. I don't care. I love Star Wars. I love bad Star Wars. I love good Star Wars. I don't care. It's more Star Wars, and I want more of it. It's so great, and that's yeah.
I think that no matter what you do, Star Wars is just going to be Star Wars. I mean, you might not like particular stuff about it, but I mean, there's so much out there that something's going to collide with something somewhere. I mean, I'm sure someone's going to be like, after Episode 7 comes out, they're going to be like, oh, well, the mug in the cantina was actually a mug that was on Mos Eisley somewhere in, the back storage room, so how could it be on Tatooine? Or wherever the hell. Who the hell cares? Just watch some frickin' awesome movies and enjoy it.
And also listen to some freaking awesome podcasts. Got a couple more years of Threat Detected, definitely. Enjoy them too. Because
Hell yeah.
Star Wars is not going anywhere, and Threat Detected isn't going anywhere.
The Force will be with you, always.
I want to thank Tony, Josh, Rob. Thank you guys for joining us for this special roundtable.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks.
Always fun.
Excellent. And until next time, there's his barefoot tour guide saying, I will have my Star Wars on a boat. I will have my Star Wars with a goat. Good night. And helps if